It's the 25th of August and I'm Tom Glasson. Welcome to The Roast. Tonight, the Immigration Minister Scott Morrison appeared before the Human Rights Commission in a marathon grilling about children in detention.
And Mr Glasson, did you watch the entire hearing? Mr Glasson?
Yep, I have no recollection of that. I may or may not have fallen asleep and just watched the Late Line summary.
Okay, did you actually watch Late Line?
I have a very early bedtime, so I'm just going to give these stupid idiots the roundabout, not actually say anything at all.
You meant to cover the mic if you're going to say things like that.
Yeah, no, I know. Good catch. Tonight, Scott Morrison defends his border protection policies and Jazz Twemlow gives us another instalment of Media Botch. But first, here is Mark Humphries with the headlines. Honestly, that Mark guy, he is such a...
The Civil Aviation Safety Authority, where the tray tables are always stowed, are considering allowing airline passengers to use electronic devices during takeoff and landing. And in unrelated news, readership of in-flight magazines is expected to drop by everyone in the world %. The changes would only apply to domestic flights, meaning if you're flying overseas, your holiday will be completely shit. A CASA spokesman says if the changes go ahead, the airlines will have to implement new briefings for passengers. And won't they be well received? Attention passengers, we're about to take off, so if you are in the middle of a game of Candy Crush, keep playing! A firefighter has performed mouth-to-mouth on a koala after it was hit by a car and fell from a tree. At least that's the reason the firefighter gave. Emergency services gave the rescued koala the nickname Sir Chomps-a-Lot, presumably because he likes big gum leaves and he cannot lie. Fire Brigade Captain Sean Curtin says it wasn't the first time one of his team has resuscitated an animal.
One of the members had performed CPR on a dog previously.
Corey Bernardi warned us this would happen. The koala is expected to make a full recovery. As for the rescuer, they're expected to get an award for bravery and possibly the clap. And in other koala news, you may recall earlier this month, a dead koala with $50 stuffed in its mouth was dumped at Haywood Police Station. Really mixed month for koalas. For The Roast, I'm Mark Humphries.
Note to self, running over animals gives you an excuse to kiss them. Also pick up milk. Next up tonight, there has been a vocal backlash against the Daily Telegraph's expose from last week, Inside Sydney's Muslim Land. And with a title like that, I have to assume the backlash was because the article was too fair and even-handed. So the article's author, Tim Blair, wrote a follow-up article today addressing his critics, in which he either humbly apologised for unfairly maligning an entire community or arrogantly ridiculed a carefully selected group of comments from Twitter. To find out which, we'll turn to Jazz Twemlow with Media Botch.
Last week's column about Sydney's Muslim heartland of Lakemba upset one or two people.
Good evening and welcome to Media Botch. That was Tim Blair there, referencing his article from last week about Muslim land. The one or two people his article upset being shouty lawyer Chris Murphy, guest Fairfax columnist Zainab Gamildian and the usual online types. Usual online types is of course the sweeping term used to dismiss genuine widespread outrage as just a couple of nutters. He went on to cite the most extreme example of hatred against him in order to safely disregard all of the well-reasoned online backlash. Of course, citing the most extreme examples to besmirch an entire community appears to be his modus operandi. But let's get to the point. Where is this apology? I can't find it anywhere. Oh, I know why. Because it's right at the end of the article.
Anyhow, enough of this evidence-based malarkey. Time to get this apology out of the way.
Time to get it out of the way? Good thing we didn't get Tim Blair to deliver the apology to the stolen generation.
To any readers who actually followed those instructions at the top of the column and converted to Islam, I neglected to include an important warning. Although converting to Islam is extremely easy, converting from Islam, particularly in the Middle East, may cause beatings, head loss, and death by stoning.
Head loss? Way to make a heinous crime sound like a problem for Advanced Hair Studio. So, Mr. Blair, what can people do to avoid this fate?
Looks like you're stuck with it. Sorry about that.
Actually, can we get a rereading of that quote? I'm not sure that's how he meant it.
Looks like you're stuck with it. Sorry about that.
So now in that spirit, let me get my own apology out of the way. Tim Blair, I'm sorry, but you botched it. I'm Jazz Twemlow, and that was Media Botch.
Thank you, Jazz. And if you accidentally converted to Islam because Tim Blair sarcastically told you to, well, good for you. It is a beautiful, peace-loving religion based on over 1,400 years of tradition.
Or is it?
No, it really is. We'll be right back.
Are you Tim Blair? Have you ever apologised to someone by further insulting them? Is your apology for the apology already half written? Will you need to apologise for that one too? When will it end? Are you getting paid for these articles? We'd love to hear about it at The Roast TV or hashtag RoastTV.
From Operation Insincere Apology to Operation Sovereign Borders now. Immigration Minister Scott Morrison has fronted a hearing before the Human Rights Commission to defend keeping children in prolonged detention. And that is about as tough a sell as you can get. It's like trying to sell keeping children in prolonged detention. And in a surprise move, Morrison actually came out from behind his media blackout to answer the questions at the hearing using Operation Speaking Hole.
Do you swear by Almighty God that the answers you will give to the questions asked of you in these proceedings will be true?
I do.
Even God was like, holy shit, he speaks! I knew I gave him a mouth for something. So Morrison must have had some pretty good reasons to use that collection of teeth and tongues for something other than eating press releases that were going to be sent to journalists. Now, obviously, the issue of children in detention is a very sensitive one, so it was good to see the minister treat it with the delicacy it deserves.
After becoming a minister, I have sat with the men and women who work as part of our Border Protection Command, who have to deal with the horrible legacy of looking into the face of a child corpse in the water.
And the winner for worst silver lining? Scott Morrison for saying, yes, there are kids in detention, but at least they're not dead. Look, I think we can all agree that deaths at sea is the single most important thing to avoid. But all that's being said here is there could be other ideas beyond detention that perhaps we could explore.
The government is not going to allow a set of policies to be weakened that would see an Australian staring into the face of a child corpse in the water again.
Yep, no, I don't think anyone is arguing for more looking at corpses. We're just saying that maybe there is a halfway point where...
The voiceless in this debate, Madam Speaker, are the ones who are at the bottom of the ocean.
No one is arguing for more drownings. Although banning journalists from detention centres also makes those asylum seekers seem pretty voiceless. Look, you can't just frame this as a zero-sum game where every equation equals either Operation Sovereign Borders and therefore kids in detention, or infinite and unstoppable deaths at sea.
Okie dokie, team captains to the podium. Let's play Federal Feud. Now, we surveyed 100 Coalition MPs about their policies. Their top 6 answers are on the board. Now, name something that is an alternative for keeping children in detention.
Allowing children to be processed in the community and then resettled in a country other than Australia if proven to be a refugee?
Community processing. Let's see if that's on the board. Oh, that is not an option. David, alternatives to kiddies in detention?
Improving regional cooperation to reduce the operation of people smugglers?
Oh, give me improved regional cooperation. Oh, wrong again. Survey says the government's only other alternatives to locking up rugrats indefinitely on an island are... Oh, looks like another easy choice for the government there. I tell you what, if I told my kids that they could go live at a place called Christmas Island where they never had to go to school again, they'd think they'd died and gone to heaven. Yeah, of course, if you hippies had your way, that's exactly what would happen to them.
You know that putting children in detention hasn't even been proven to be a deterrent, right?
Survey says, I don't give a shit. We'll be right back. You're smiling way, sweetheart.
Say what you like about Federal Feud, it definitely beats the old show, Are You As Imprisoned as a Fifth Grader? But look, to be fair, it does have to be hard for Scott Morrison because as part of his job, he is the legal guardian for unaccompanied asylum seeker children.
Tom, Scott Morrison is the worst dad ever. And as the former worst dad ever, I would know. Now this cup my children gave me means nothing.
Okay, but Scott Morrison himself acknowledges that keeping children locked up does affect him emotionally.
As a parent of 2 young children, the emotional challenges of working in this policy portfolio are just as real, but sentiment cannot be indulged at the expense of effective policy.
Yeah, sure, that's touching, but Mr. Morrison, while you may be the biological father of 2 children, you are the legal guardian of a bunch of others. And while I don't want to accuse you of playing favourites, if we look at the statistics, most of your children are being detained against their will. And from what I can tell, they don't like it. Look, from one worse dad to another, the trick to noticing your kids are unhappy is when they stop drawing horses and start drawing pictures of themselves crying blood.
Right, so I guess you'll have to hand this mug over to Scott Morrison.
Oh, God, no, Tom. I couldn't give this away. This shitty mug is a gift from my kids. I'm a bad father, but I'm not a monster. No, I'm sure I have something else lying around here for Scott. I think I put it down. Dan, roll the thing! Is it down here somewhere? That's right, Thomas. This week, for coming up with solution to deaths at sea, but failing to continue to search for a better one, and for being the world's shittiest dad, the coveted Dicky Award goes to... drumroll, please. Scott Morrison! Oh, congratulations, Scott. You've just won yourself a Dicky. Thanks, Darren. Sadly, Scott couldn't be here tonight to accept the award on account of the fact he's reading a bedtime story to all the kids under his care.
But really?
Oh, God, no. If anyone needs help sleeping at night, it's him. Good night. Ah, Tim Blair was runner-up.
Huh.